definition, in spite of an earlier indication he had given to the court that he was not clear in his mind about the exact connotation of overvoting. Now, he was pressed by a member of the panel of judges who wanted clarity on the matter. Listen.
I'm not too clear in my own mind what the connotation of overvote is. So at this time, I will not, I think it's something that is subject to that clarification.
No, but you are the boss.
No, well, yes. All right. Okay, my lord, the classical definition of overvote, is where the ballots cast exceed the number of persons eligible to vote at a polling station, or if you like, the number of persons on the polling station register. That is the classical definition of voting. The two new definitions have been introduced. Two new definitions. There's nothing wrong with that. But I have problems with these two new definitions that have been proposed. And the problem I have with both definitions is that they limit themselves exclusively to what is on the face of the they limit themselves, as I understand the definition.
Definition by
the petitioners. By the petitioners. They have offered two definitions of overvoting. One, where the number of ballots issued or cast exceed the number of voters as indicated on the face of the pink sheet. That is the definition.
John today wasted no time in challenging some earlier claims made by the NPP 2012 running mate Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia on the significance of duplicate serial numbers on pink sheets and the allegation that there were some unknown polling stations used in the last elections.
You heard the evidence of Dr. Bawumia that the duplication of serial numbers should result in an annulment of the votes on all polling stations where the same serial number exists for two polling stations on the pink sheets.
My lords, I strongly disagree with that. The serial numbers that you find on the pink sheets are not even generated by the Electoral Commission. They are generated by the firm or company that printed the serial numbers. Also, unlike in the case of ballot papers, where the law requires that we print the numbers, there should be a number on every ballot paper. I have seen no reference in the Constitution or a statute or an instrument to serial number of the pink sheet. The serial number is important only to the extent that it allows us to keep count of the number of pink sheets produced.
Dr. Jan, let's turn to the 22 polling stations that you are aware the plaintiffs allege were unknown or outside the 26,002 polling stations.
My lords, I think the description of this group of polling stations, has been changing. In the first instance, the petitioners talked about extra polling stations, which meant that there were additional to the 26,002 polling stations. We have always maintained that the results were collated on the basis of 26,002 polling stations, and nobody has shown anything to the contrary. So the extra, that was the extra description. Then they became unknown. Well, that is not strange to me. I have worked in the commission for a long time. Not 34 years though. But I do not know all the polling stations in this country. And I do not think that anybody knows all the polling stations in this country. So if you see some polling stations are unknown to you, I would understand it. But for me to see that some polling stations are unknown to me does not mean that they do not exist.
Now, I'm joined on the line right now by my now regular top story panel to examine the events of today at the Supreme Court. Yaw Babian-Asamoah is the spokesperson for the NPP legal team. Also joining me now on the line is Victor Daudu. He is a member of the NDC legal team. Let me start with you, Babian-Asamoah. The EC chairman today confirmed the NDC's definition of overvoting and indeed challenged your own definition. Does that settle it?
Settles what? Absolutely nothing is being settled. Indeed, he's received a huge kick in the teeth today. Today, pushed to the wall, Dr. Afari-Gyan said he didn't have a definition for overvoting. That is where he began from.
But did he say that? Listen to him again. He didn't say that. He said he's not sure about, in his own mind, what the connotation is. I'm not, is that the definition he was talking about?
Please. He then said there was a classical definition. Which, however, appeared to have been overtaken by technology. So he was asked, what is the definition of overvoting? Then he said, well, he doesn't agree with the definition that's taken off the face of the pink sheet. He still was not able to tell us what overvoting is beyond the classical. And then he came to the actual pink sheet where he was shown, he took a calculator and he ended up demonstrating that there was overvoting on the face of the pink sheet. Then he confirmed that in that case, it has to be annulled. That, to me, is the most important thing, that it has to be annulled. If it is found that it's in excess, it has to be annulled. Then question, in the event, why then did he want to tender the list from the verification numbers? Without getting into the doubtfulness at this stage, why did he want to do that? If his definition of voting is registered number of people as against those in the ballot box, and in between there, why bring in those verified? Because his own definition of overvoting is that where people who are verified to vote are less than the ballots found in the box, that is overvoting and to be cancelled, even if it's one. And that is what the petitioners had delivered evidence of some cancellations elsewhere to show. So whilst he pretended that those cancellations were about the results and that the results will not be affected, he knew very well that they had just been filed an example of places which had been cancelled for overvoting and not to be cancelled elsewhere, if that was the case. So today, I mean, sometimes decisions go against you, the court rules, and you are unhappy. But on the average, this court appears to be quite even so far.
I see. Hold the line for me. Let me bring in Victor now. Victor, quickly. I'll come back to you, Babian-Asamoah. I'll come back to you on the other key subjects. But Victor, tell me, this particular definition is a central point, isn't it? Because we've had several definitions. Indeed, he confirmed your own definition, but again, did not quite say when he was pushed. He said that when you look at the other definitions and you look at the technology we are using now, we might have to consider a relook, a review of the definition that he gave today.
Thank you, Ivan, and good evening to your listeners. Ivan, I believe that we have past, and we can only build the future on the past. We started elections in this country for some time. 1992-93 is a classical one, where we've all had a division of overvoting. And that is what everybody knows as overvoting. And I think that has been confirmed by Dr. Afari-Gyan. Now, he also went ahead and said that, yes, if there is anything that technology has overtaken us and can define as overvoting, then that is what the petitioners are putting forward, that is overvoting. However, if we are going to take everything line hook and sinker that what the petitioners are saying is overvoting, then we are going to take blank spaces and zero also to mean overvoting. And I think that is where the court is going to make a pronouncement on it. And what is overvoting in the light of technology would be said. So I think for now, what we understand as overvoting, as said by Mr. Cedric Ketia, has been confirmed by that. If they cannot voice what they understand as overvoting, where blank spaces and zero means overvoting is. So I think that we should not just rationalize what everybody has said, what we all understand. Let's leave that to the court, and the court will make a pronouncement. They will also look at the position of the law, but it is gratifying to note that the position that our understanding of what is overvoting is what has been said.
Mr. Samoa, he also clarified the issues about the serial numbers on the pink sheets, but most importantly also, the 22 polling stations you said were unknown.
It's sad. Let me deal with overvoting. It's very sad that the chairman of the Electoral Commission was floundering all over the place today, not able to pin himself down to a definition of overvoting, and that the court pushed him on his definition, and he had to concede that that definition doesn't stand up to scrutiny. The so-called classical definition. When are we going to have the high life definition then? That definition does not stand up to scrutiny, and the court demonstrated as much. So as we sit here now, Dr. Afari-Gyan has confirmed that where ballots in the box do not match ballots issued, it will be cancelled. He did that mathematics. So whether he chooses to say excess votes or overvoting, he has confirmed that it will be cancelled because it ought not to happen.
And I think Adauda made the point that the Supreme Court will have to make a final determination on this. Let's talk about the serial numbers and the 22 police stations.
An unknown polling station does not mean that agents went there. Agents went there is immaterial if that polling station shouldn't exist according to law. The law says polling station creation is closed at least 42 days before an election. And therefore, any polling station which is not known to the 26,002 list 42 days before the election is unknown, whether it exists or not. So the argument that agents went there and signed pink sheets does not hold water. If an agent signed a pink sheet which by law shouldn't exist, it doesn't exist. And therefore, the unknown polling stations, their job is to prove that those polling stations were part of the 26,002 original polling stations that they gave to the parties. It's as simple as that.
I see. Mr. Daudu, final point on those key moments when he sought to contradict some of the evidence put forward so far by the petitioners. I'm sure you say that as far as your case is concerned, it strengthens the matter.
Hello, if you come again.
I'm talking about the key points, the two key points he made, challenging the petitioners' assertions about serial numbers and some unknown polling stations.
I think it's very interesting that he made that point, that the serial numbers are not even generated by Electoral Commission, and it is the printer who generates those numbers for the purpose of counting. And this is one of the largest chunks that they were looking forward for to annul over 2.6 million votes. And I think that what he has said, everybody would wait for the court to understand what they are saying. And I think that it's been on point, as we have said, that serial numbers do not matter. What you can use to identify is the name of the polling station and the code. If I can quickly just make a point on where he says the polling stations were unknown.
Quickly.
This was issue of mistakes, the code numbers that have not been put. It's a wrong entry in the code. And we have said that some of them, if you look at it, the spelling was wrong or the code was misquoted. So I think these are issues that goes down to errors, and we will look at them when the court decides.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time. That's Victor Kojogan Daudu, LA Health, the spokesperson for the NPP legal team, Yaba Biansama. If you join me on Newsnight on Radio. I'll tell you about the story that has just broke a couple of hours back. We understand that the IGP has ordered investigations into alleged brutalities meted out by policemen to some suspected land guards last Friday. We have a video of that we want to bring to you. If you join me on Newsnight as that debate, particularly as far as that alleged brutality ensues, that is on Newsnight on Radio. My name is Evans Mensah.